Hello my friends, this is Carmen with Elemental Designs and we are here for part 2, which is going to be the continuation of the art journaling page from start to finish. This is a follow along series, part of the art journaling basics series that I have here on my channel. So for the continuation of this background, what we're going to be doing now is adding some collage elements. Now we're not going to go too crazy with adding some collage elements. We're going to keep it rather simple and rather basic. So what I've gotten here, it's a dictionary that I pretty much purchased for the purpose of using papers out of it for collaging and just different things. So I'm just going to grab a page, any little random page will do. And again, depending on what you're necessarily going for, you know, so on and so forth, then you're going to be, you know, applying different things to your pages. For this page, I'm going to be using some of this paper here, which has print on both sides. And it's a very thin kind of paper, but you can use any kind of paper that you wish. And all I'm going to be doing is just trying to stretch this up a little bit. And I just want little pieces here and there. I just want to be able to add a little bit of text. Now remember, I will be also doing different versions of art journaling for this series. I will also, in the next follow along video, I'm going to show you how to create an art journal page with not necessarily using so much heavy paint to create your background. We're going to be creating backgrounds that are solely made of paper and just collage items. So we're going to be doing a whole bunch of different styles and just different things. I'm not going to be using this sheet in its entirety, but I will be using, you know, different parts of it. I'm going to get one more of those. And I'm going to add paper until I feel satisfied with what I'm seeing. Now the reason that I left this paper to add it on this layer as opposed to underneath all the background paints and stuff like that is because I actually wanted this paper to show through, you know, quite heavily. But in one of the future videos, I will show you about adding the papers on the very first layer before you even start adding paints. So that'll be something that I will do with you guys a little bit later on. So for this, I'm going to pull out my DIY matte medium. And again, this is just, you know, the white school glue with a little bit of water mixed in. And the reason why I'm using these products, these DIY products, is because I know that not all of us can afford to either buy or have available and or handy, you know, like store-bought items like the actual store-bought gessos. And I do apologize for the racket outside. I hope that that does not transmit too much over the video, but it was snowing here in New York, and they've been doing some cleaning because the kids had a 2-hour delay, but they were able to go to school today, so that was a good thing. So now they're just cleaning the streets. So if I do hear too much of a ruckus, you might get a point or two in the video where I will mute it out and or fast forward it so that you guys don't hear all that craziness. Before I begin this, I wanted to show you what I'm going to be using for my focal points. Now these are Dollar Tree stickers. And the reason that I'm using these is to show you that pretty much you can use any kinds of images that you have. I've really been wanting to play with these stickers for quite some time to use these bottles, so I figured these would be the perfect time to use them. Now these stickers are very dimensional, so you can choose to use them as they are with the dimension, or you can choose to use the top layers of the stickers. It's completely up to you. I'm not really quite sure which way I'm going to go with them, but I did pull these out so that I can show you what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to grab my brush, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of this watered down school glue as my matte medium. And if you don't want to get too many air bubbles in your projects when you're collaging paper, then I would just recommend that you apply the glue little by little, and then use something that is flat edged and just kind of push out those air bubbles. Start with a little bit at a time, and then just push those air bubbles out. I'm going to be using these strips as kind of like I guess the landing place for some of my stickers that I'm going to be using. And try not to apply too much glue onto your brush. You don't want it to be so wet because the more wet that it is, the more that your paper is going to wrinkle. And you can use any kind of paper that you like. You can use scrapbook paper. You can use books or anything that you are going to be using for the purposes of collaging and things of that nature. If you do paper projects, like I know I do, I always have tons of, little leftovers here and there. And usually I'll save those for, adding into my art journal. And again, just pushing out as much of those air bubbles as I possibly can so that my paper dries as straight as it possibly can. Now, the reason that I used this paper here, again, is because number one, it's very thin. It's very kind of see-through. It's almost, it has a certain level of transparency to it. And I did want some of those little things in the background to kind of show through the paper. So that's the reason why I used this paper here. If you're not sure how to make your mediums, I did include in the very first video for our Journaling Basics series here on my channel. I did show you how to create different mediums, from gesso to modeling paste to also your matte medium using school glue. So if you're not quite sure how to do those, then you can go ahead and check that video out, and you'll get that information there. I will link a playlist where all these videos for the Art Journaling Basics will be included, including the follow along. I'm going to go ahead and just apply a little bit more of the matte medium right over these, because I will be adding some shading on here with some markers, and I want to be able to spread the ink of those markers. So I'm just going to make sure that I matte medium over the surface of these collage pieces. I've kind of let them set a little bit, and now I'm going to go over them. If you find that your pages are sticking to each other, I know there are many different things that you can do, but what I personally like to do is I have a sock with some baby powder, and I usually use that sock to remove static when I do my heat embossing, like when I do paper crafting. And actually, I've found that by kind of just you know, slapping the sock around with some of that baby powder, it'll help remove some of that stickiness. And because it comes out really, really, really fine, you don't, you know, damage and or hide any of the images that you have in the background. You can always do that, slap it around a little bit, and just make sure that, you know, some of that stickiness absorbs some of that baby powder, if you will. And then just pass a dry wipe over it to remove any excess. And that usually does the trick for me. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to add this little piece right here that I have. And I'm going to heat set this so that it dries. And then I'm going to proceed to add a little bit of um, the colors or some shading. I'm not really quite sure yet where I'm going to proceed from here, but you'll see in a second once I get my thoughts together. And always clean your brush once you're done using any of the mediums. Always, always clean your brush. It will damage your brush if you do not clean it. Do not set it in water. Um, clean it right away. You can use water to clean it, just do not leave it in the cup. All right, you guys, so I brought out some glue to adhere these to my page. I've also brought out my Faber-Castell India ink markers, but you can feel free to use anything that you like. I've also illustrated in a previous video that you don't even necessarily have to use markers. If you have pencils or anything like that, you can also create similar effects with the use of those. I just personally like the way that these blends out when I use them over matte medium surfaces. So I'm going to try to figure out exactly where I want this. And as you see me, I'm kind of removing some of these. I'm removing the top layer. I'm only going to work, at least for right now, with just the bottom until I figure out exactly what I want to do with these. Alright, so I removed that. Let me just get some of that foam off of there. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to start with these three and then see what I want to do with the other ones. Okay, so I'm going to start figuring out placements for these, and then I want to see how much they stand out in the background. Okay, so for some of these, I am going to go ahead and just add a little dab with my finger, and I'm just going to kind of very lightly, almost to a translucent state. I just want to add a little bit of white in here because I don't want my images to get lost in the background. So I'm just going to rub a little bit of this out. And I kind of want to see where this is going to go. So let me get myself a little palette here, and I'm going to just add a little bit of paint onto that palette. This might not be something that is necessary for you, depending on the image that you're using. But what you want to always make sure is that when you use your images, you can actually see them. You don't want your images to look like part of the background. So if you find that that's something that's going on, you can always use a darker color or a lighter color and break some of that up and create some contrast so that your images kind of stand out. And again, I don't want to lose that background that I worked so hard on. So this is why I'm just dabbing it little by little and then thinning it out with my finger. And we're also going to be doing some shading on these a little later on. So you now see the difference. Now you can actually see that image. So once I glue that down, I'll be able to actually see that, which is what I want. This is pretty dry because it dries really fast, especially when you do it so thinly. And again, these are very dimensional. These have foam pieces. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they have like little foam pieces of flour on there. So I just want to make sure that these are never going to come off. So I'm going to make sure that I glue this down. Even though it's got adhesive on it, we all know that some adhesives for these stickers are not that great. So I just want to make sure that that is completely on there the way I want it to be. And here's my very first one. That's my spatula. And I'm just going to kind of smooth that down with my spatula. Make sure that that's all good and that that glue is nicely distributed throughout all the edges. Now I want to pick my next one. And I want to see where I'm going to be placing this one. So I think since this one's a little bit on the taller side, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same thing down here. And I think right around here, let me add a little bit more paint. Work in small increments, you guys. That way you're not wasting paint later on and letting paint kind of go to waste, if you will. If you don't have your white paint but you have your gesso, you can also do this with gesso. Just water it down so that you have, you just have that kind of hazy kind of background, right behind it. And again, you can also use other color paints and do the same technique. It all depends on the colors that you're using on your background. So you can kind of see where you need more paint, where you need less paint. And I think that's about right there. Okay, I feel satisfied with that. So here I am. I'm going to go ahead and add some glue. And depending on what you're using for your focal point, your drying time is going to vary. So just have patience with your piece. This is why I'm doing these one a day, so that you guys can take your time and kind of start building on ideas and just what you want to add on your journal page. Get your focal points ready. If you want to print some images off the internet, you can go ahead and do so. If you want to color in some stamps images, you can go ahead and do so as well. So let me just show you so far what we have. So now you see how those kind of stands out from the background because I added a little bit of that white behind them. That helps them kind of stand out. And here we have our last one. And I might add one more, I'm not sure. I think I want that one there. So right around there. So you can dab with one, spread with the other, so that you're not applying so much paint until you hardly have anything left on your finger. Okay, so this will kind of do it for me on this one. Now, if you want to go over your images with a matte medium, you can also do that, especially if you plan on doing any actual highlighting with markers and so on the stickers themselves or on the images themselves. Then you might want to just apply a quick layer of a matte medium over this. I think I can go with one more. What do you guys think? So I think I started with a green on that side, so I'll start with a green maybe on this side. Or should I use the purple one? Dilemmas, dilemmas, you guys. Dilemmas, dilemmas. What could I use? One of these dimensional ones that actually don't have any flowers. No. I'll leave that to use on something else, maybe create a tag or something like that. So I'm gonna go with this green one here. So I think the green actually complements the page nicely. And I'm gonna apply that somewhere down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove my sticker. I think I'm gonna go with that somewhere down here. So again, I'm gonna get some white paint. And this part of the technique solely depends on your image and what you're using and how heavy you've loaded up your background. You can find yourself thinking, you know what, Carmen, your background is a little bit too busy for me, and I kind of like it a little bit quieter. So I'm not going to add as many, as many elements to the background. I'm not going to add that many circles. I'm not going to add that many stamps. I actually prefer to just add a few here and there, and that's perfectly fine. So if you find that you don't need, to add the little bit of white here and there, you don't have to. It's perfectly fine. It's about what makes you smile, right? That's what this is all about. What makes you smile? You're looking at your page and saying, this looks nice, and feeling very proud of your work. Progress is progress, you guys. No matter how big or how small, progress is progress. So here we are, and we're going to add our last little elements here on this page. I've added this a little crooked, so let me see if I can make it a little bit straighter. There we go. Alright, you guys. So this is pretty much glued down. I am going to go ahead and add some more of these little elements here, but because I'm going to add some elements here in the background, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to just use a little bit of paint that I have here. And again, remember, I want to keep some of these elements, you know, the writing, some of the you know, whatever little texture or end or pattern your paper has. If you want to keep some of that there, that's fine. If you want to mute it out, again, that's also okay. I'm gonna just mute it out just slightly. Nothing so major. I'm not gonna add too much highlight here and there. I just want to be able to add some of my little flower images and butterfly images and have them actually kind of show. Plus, I will be doing some highlighting a little later on as well. This is just adding just a few little elements here and there. Just gonna extend that a little bit. I really like how some of these stickers look. I actually love these types of stickers because you can use them for so many different things. They're great for card making. They're great for so many different just elements, adding little elements to your pages here and there. And I'm going to add glue to every single one of my pieces because I want to make sure that they stay. And on these, I did leave the dimension on because I like the way that the shadow kind of looks on it. It's all about personal preference and personal choice. I'm going to kind of layer these like so. And that's another thing that's great about the fact that they have dimension. I could actually interlock them and create different layered effects. I'll show you guys what this is looking like. I'm going to be breaking this down into 3 videos. First video is creating the background. Second video is adding some of the focal points and adding additional collage elements. And the last video is going to be shadowing and framing of your page. And here I'm just adding some of little petals that came with this sticker sheet. These are like fallen petals. And I'm going to be highlighting most of these. We even have a little butterfly here that we're going to be using. I'm going to put the little butterfly right there. And notice how I did not add any white to that because I am going to be adding some highlights with the markers. Trying to figure out exactly where I want this. Let's see. Just adding different parts of that. Again, just adding some of the little elements that are in this page here. Let me add this little butterfly right there. Making sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. And again, I'm not using all of them, so I'm going to leave some of those for later use on other projects. And I'm going to just add a little sticker, last little sticker somewhere around here. And let's add it right there. All right, you guys, so I'm going to allow this to dry now. After I'm done with this, I'm going to allow this whole page to dry. And then on the last installment of this follow along for this art journal page, we're going to be doing the borders, and we're going to be doing some highlights and some shading just to make some of your focal points stand out a little bit more. We might even add a sentiment or two. So I hope that you guys stay tuned. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy this series and want to follow along, don't forget to hit that bell. And if you haven't subscribed already, then please do subscribe. And thank you all so much. Leave your comments and feedbacks down below, and I will catch you on part 3. Bye.